really funny. Get ready to laugh hard, be bold, and solve business problems as you explore the multi-generational way we work now. Please join me in welcoming Amy Lynch.
There we go. So I grew up near Knoxville, okay? Down in Wallen, down in Mirabel. So I left for a few years. I came back. So is it like this every day now? This is so exciting. I thought Knoxville was this, funny little, funky little city, and now this is too cool. I've been here about 24 hours. I'm looking for a house. This is great. I'm serious. This is majorly cool. That this event is happening and that you are invested in the city. I get chills. I'm really excited. Okay, so we're going to talk about the generations in the city of Knoxville and what that has to do with making Knoxville the innovative killer city we know it can be, and the roles that each generation plays. Okay, let's be frank. How many of you have seen a generations presentation before? Yeah, I know. Yeah, people are tired of them. Well, I even have one client, she's hired me for next week out in Utah, and she said, I'm not going to tell them what the subject is. Yeah, because they're tired of generation presentations. And she said, you're going to be a surprise. And I'm like, okay, surprise! Yeah. So anyway, we'll see how this goes. Right now we're going to focus, basically, on those three generations that are in the workforce, but I'm going to recognize all the generations before we get started. Do we have any of the silent generation born before 1946? Do we have anybody in the house of that generation? I miss them. They're never in my speeches anymore. I miss them. They're so... Oh, was there somebody here? Were you outing your neighbor? Okay, so I'll tell you what, the last time I had silence in my audience, I remember it because it was so... because it was so unusual to have people. And it was at a bank. Their granddaughter worked at the bank, and she wanted her grandparents, who were the silent generation, like my mom's generation, she wanted them to come and hear about the generations. So they came, and I was introduced to them beforehand in the lobby, and so I knew. They were like veterans of World War II, so I got this number. So I came to this part, and I said, oh, are there any silents in the audience? They were sitting right down there. Nothing. So it was awkward. And then I went on, and afterwards I said to their granddaughter, so why didn't they acknowledge it so we could clap for them? She said, oh, they couldn't hear a word you said. Then she said, but they loved the program. So I don't know. You can't make this up. Any boomers in the audience? Booms, where are you? Oh, come on, booms. You gotta be. 1, 2, this is pitiful. Booms, where are you? Stand up so I can see you. Let's give it up for the booms. Yeah, I'm not surprised there's so few here because booms are retiring every 7 seconds. A boomer's retiring every 7 seconds. So if it's your turn while I'm talking and you're gone, I'm good. But I am glad you're here. It takes all the generations to build a city. We can't do this with one generation. All right, what about Gen Xers? Where are you? That was pitiful. Gen Xers, where are you? I have to tell Gen Xers to clap, always. They never do. I think it might be because you're a small generation. Might be. What do you think? Why are you such a small generation? What happened? Birth control, absolutely. As a boomer, I'm here to tell you that was a good thing. Now, so what happened was boomers like me delayed having kids till later, and that's one reason we have so many millennials. Yeah, birth control. What else did women have when you Gen Xers were kids that they didn't have? Jobs. Totally. They were out working, and so you were latchkey kids. I'm sorry, but anyway, yeah, small generation. A small generation that we need very, very, very much. You're the heart of the workforce. You're the heart of any city. There's pressure on you right now. As boomers start to retire, there's pressure on you to step up and lead, to take over. Please take over, especially politics. Please take over, because we boomers really, oh well. Okay, small generation, but with a lot of pressure and a lot of work to do, particularly in a city setting. Well, you don't get much publicity. You're the forgotten middle child. All the publicity goes to whom? They're here, aren't they? Where are the millennials? All right! All the publicity goes to the millennials. It's not always good publicity, though. What kind of things do they say that isn't true? Lazy, entitled, all that stuff which we know isn't true. But you got, it floats out there in the media all the time. And look at you. You're already the biggest group in the workforce. By 2020, you'll be half the workforce. By 2025, you'll be 2/3 or 3/4 of the workforce. 2030, I think the first of you get your AARP cards. Yeah. But not all the publicity is good. Anybody seen the snake people? If you have Chrome, you can download a snake people app. Anybody seen that? Oh, well, it's for people who are tired of reading about millennials. And so anytime it appears on your screen, the word millennials will be replaced with snake people. Yeah. Snake people revive downtown Knoxville, that kind of thing, Snake person is singular. And King Cobra, instead of Zuckerberg, it says King Cobra on your stage anytime. I'm not kidding. This is for people who don't want to hear any more about millennials, people who don't want to hear any more about boomers. Not all the press is good for boomers either. Anybody seen the blog Die, Boomer Die? Yeah, this is true. I'll keep you up at night. I'll tell you that. Okay, so we know who the generations are. Gen Z, basically 20, 21 and younger. We got anybody here? Oh man, they're going to be so cool. It's so exciting. A lot of you I talked with this morning work with the schools here in Knoxville, and this hands-on, resilient, resourceful group. They're just going to be amazing. We don't have them yet in the room. We could use their tech ability, but they're going to be part of this cool city in just a few years. Now here's what's important. 75% of the millennials in the country said a cool city is more important than a good job. That's the opposite of what boomers said. The boomers said, find me a job and then I'll move to where that job is. Millennials, what do? Trying to create a life. I know where I want to live. I'm going to create a life there. And if I can't find a job, I'll just freaking make one. Right? It's the opposite. It's turned upside down. And for you, Knoxville, right now, that's good news. That's good news, because you got all the pieces in place to create what is a cool city in the mind of young talent across the country. What is that? Well, several things. Opportunities, not just opportunities to get a job, but opportunities to make a job. An entrepreneurial spirit, like the entrepreneurial center here. The ability to learn, and for heaven's sakes, look at what you've got. Look at the schools you have. And not just to learn in the classroom, but to learn to dance, to learn to cook. All those things are part of this that millennials look for. Affordability is huge. Okay, millennials, how many of you have student debt? Yeah. How many of you kind of had to live through the recession as you started work? Yeah, right? Okay, so affordability is huge. After hours, are there things to do in the city that matters? Millennials look for that. I hear you have some football games up here and basketball. I got a few things to do after hours. Vitality, that's about health. That's about whether or not there are green spaces. That's about whether or not there's a farmer's market. That's about whether or not you got legacy parks happening and all the good work around that to make outdoor spaces where people can be healthy, where they can rest and be together. So that's happening. Social capital is huge. People who are young and talented and the cream of the crop are looking for a city where they can have social capital. They can have access and make a difference. As I was doing interviews for this speech, I was so excited because I heard several of you said, the city's going in the right direction and the door isn't closed. They said, if I want a meeting with the mayor, I can probably get one. If I want a meeting with the head of that foundation, I can probably get one. That's fantastic. still have the ability to shape this city. In a lot of cities, the door is closed, but not in Knoxville. The door is still open. And social justice. Things like the Change Center, things that are happening here in Knoxville. All those are things that young talent across the country looks for, and look at what's happening in the middle of the country. These are cities that are providing that. Columbus, Cleveland, oh, they're blowing up right now. Pittsburgh, Detroit, I mean, it's blowing up out there. Omaha, I mean, okay, just try not to be, but you know, there are Iowa City, the millennials, the population there is just ballooning because they're providing those things. Not because they're glamorous, but because they're providing those livability things, those things that have to do with lifestyle. Now, notice where all these cities are. They're in the heartland. Next time you get on a plane, look at the flight patterns, okay? Because there are a bunch of like boomer parents flying in to see their grandkids all the time. Kansas City, Columbus, Cleveland, Pittsburgh, it's become competitive to draw young professionals. It's become very competitive. A lot's going on out there. Columbus is huge. The art scene there has taken off really big. And you know what they're doing to let people know? If you're sitting in traffic in San Francisco, or sitting on a subway trying to get home up in Boston or New York, you might see this. And it's just Instagram images of things that people are doing in Columbus. And it's, you know, it's like dogs and parks and baristas and coffee and lumbersexuals with beards and plaid shirts, you know, all that stuff. And so if you're sitting in an, you know, you're trying to go home to your overpriced apartment way at the edge of town because, you know, you can't live in the city where you work, you see this? What do? Move to Columbus. Yeah, it's really working. Just this simple thing is really working. But it's getting, like I said, it's getting pretty competitive out there. Detroit, you know, used to be the armpit of, I'm sorry, it's just, you know, not a place I would have thought of ever moving. Got a big art scene downtown. Got a great after hours scene now. In 2004, the governor of Michigan wanted to do a big campaign. You know, she wanted to prove that Detroit was livable. And so she's like, oh, we got to do this big D thing. It's going to be great. And she got laughed out of the State House. 2004. But now, it's a different story. Notice they shortened their name to the D. Columbus has become C-Bus. So if you're going to be in its city, you got to shorten the name. You know, you got to think: is it Knox? Is it the X? Whatever it is, but you got to shorten the name, obviously, to be cool. But now you can quote live it up in Detroit. I love what Montana is doing. Montana isn't advertising jobs to young professionals. They aren't saying word one about jobs. They're just talking about coming there and living the dream. That's what they call it, living the dream. And what they want you to do is to come there and work remotely. Just telecommute. As a matter of fact, last year they sent 15,000 guides to telecommuting by email to 15,000 graduates of universities there who had gone away. Pretty darn smart. So now they can come back, they can ride horses, they can be out in the air, they can do all that stuff, and they can work in Montana. Montana is not saying, bring us your companies. They're saying, no, come and live here. Come and live here. You know, I warned you that it's getting a little weird out there. Look at what South Dakota's doing.
Mars. The air, not breathable. The surface, cold and barren. But thousands are lining up for a chance to go and never come back. South Dakota, progressive, productive, and abundant in oxygen. Why die on Mars when you can live in South Dakota? South Dakota, you can live here.
You know, the competition's not too stiff on that one. You guys got that one big. But yeah, it's heating up out there. It's heating up out there as people realize that young talent wants to leave the coast and come and live in a place where there's a lifestyle that they can love. Okay, when you are talking about this city or any city these days, it's lifestyle, then it's affordability, then it's jobs, in that order. When you're trying to recruit people here, that's what you talk about, in that order. Not the other way, the way you would have talked to boomers. Because, it's so exciting in the last few years, the American dream has changed. Anybody follow Penelope Trump? Okay, so anyway, she's a big proponent of the way the American dream has changed. And it has changed from something like this, a house in the burbs and a car that you can drive to work and 2.5 kids and all that good stuff. It's changing from that to something like this. I'm sorry, my clicker's not exactly, yeah, there we go. It's changing to a life you can love at a price you can afford. A life you can love at a price you can afford. We boomers, it's just true, we collected a lot of stuff. We like stuff. We like to buy expensive things. We defined ourselves, could we buy expensive things? You millennials, you're kind of different about that. You're not real high on stuff, are you? You're high on experience. When I work with I work in the insurance sector some of those insurance companies are losing their minds because millennials don't want to insure a house and a car and all that. No, they want to insure the bicycle and the guitar and the experience. Yeah. You want experience. That's what's valuable. The life you can live at a price you can afford. Now, let's talk about Knoxville. I got this info from the Chamber, and it's pretty exciting because the average cost of living in the U.S., they looked at all the cities, and the average cost they made 100. That's the even. Like San Francisco's a 340 or something, but 100 is the average. I'm from Nashville. Nashville's gotten so expensive, it's crazy. Look at this. Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus, Detroit, all these hot cities. Where do you think Knoxville falls? What's the number that designates the cost of living? What? 85, somebody said? 75, 64? Well, it's a good number. Yeah, 85. Pearl, let's hear it. Yeah! 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 Go! Yeah! Because this is the number you want to tell a young talent to come here. And you've had people come from out of town, friends of yours who are saying, how'd you end up in that funky little town? How'd you end up in that funny little town? Then they show up, right? And you show them what they can buy for $85,000. Yeah, and it's exciting. So yeah, cost of living, critical for this generation, because if you haven't noticed, the economy hasn't been very kind to young talent. The economy hasn't been very kind to Gen Xers or to millennials. And you guys are much more realistic about that than boomers ever were. So I gotta hand that to you. Okay, right now, I want us to look at the population in Knoxville. In 2010, you had a bigger group of boomers than millennials. Well, that was 5 years ago. And millennials were only like 14% of the workplace. That's not much. Now in 2015, 19%, but it ought to be bigger. It ought to be closer to 30% of the workforce, if we're looking at national numbers, okay? And it bothers me that what's projected is this. That's not enough. Watch the Gen Xers, by the way. 20%, 20%, 20%, yeah. We're glad you're here, guys, and we're glad you're not leaving. But we got to get some more millennial talent in here. Of course, Gen Z is going to show up pretty soon. That's going to be exciting. But see what I'm saying about the millennials not growing? They don't know, do they? They don't know what's here, or else they'd be coming. They're going to Cleveland instead? I mean, give me a break. No, they don't know. Why hasn't Knoxville brought the spotlight on itself? Why hasn't Knoxville? Why aren't you out there beating your chests about this? Why don't people know? I'm serious, I'm asking. You haven't told them yet. I think that's true. I have another theory. My people, as we used to say, my people are from the mountains. Here in East Tennessee, my grandparents from the Follett, all that kind of stuff. There is an insular feeling in Appalachia. And I think Knoxville may still have some of that feeling. And you got to get over it, folks. You know, it's 2016, and it's time to invite the world in, because you've got something fabulous here in so many ways. Okay, as I was talking with people, I was talking with Samantha, who's here today. We're on the brink of something, she said. People don't know we're on the brink of something. And Knoxville's been on the brink of something for about 10 years, quite frankly. You know, that growth that just keeps incrementally, things just keep changing. It could explode, guys. I really think it could. I'm so excited for you. But she says, there's an amazing synergy. People don't know we're on the brink of something. And, you know, in that way, you're reflective of the whole country. The whole country is actually on the brink of something right now because of what's been happening for the last 30 years, because of the amount of disruption that we have seen in the business place in the last 30 years. We aren't doing business the way we used to do business, are we? It's all changing. When we look at what's happened, we've gone, good grief. Anybody here, you know what that is, right? A punch card. A punch card. It was something primitive that went in computers like in the 1950s, okay? And that's what we had. And then, of course, we moved to vacuum tubes. It was a big day. And then we got transistors. Then the integrated circuit. Bam, 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 bam. Between 1950 and 1980, bam. And here's what happened. In 1950, the number of calculations you could make in 1 second, if you spent $1,000 to do it, was 10 to the 0 power. Right? That was in 1950. That was punch cards mostly, maybe a few vacuum tubes thrown in. Watch this. Oh dear, guys. There we go. All right. That number now, the number of calculations per second, is 10 to the 15th power. I think that's 10 quadrillion. That's a different world than it was in the 1950s for me. I wasn't born too late, but if you were here in Knoxville in the 1950s, that's a different world than the world that you now inhabit in Knoxville and the possibilities that you inhabit in Knoxville. As this has happened, of course, what's been, it's kind of amazing. Do any of you remember the goods economy? The economy where basically we created value by making things that I could touch and I could give to you. Steel, automobiles, things you could touch, goods. It was a goods economy. And then it became a services economy. Then it became an information economy. Right after that, it became a concept economy where it was about information that you could pull together into bits and pieces. Suddenly, it's an interface economy. Uber, the biggest transportation company in the world, it doesn't own any vehicles. It's an interface. Customer interface, that's what it is. That's how we create value in this country now. Airbnb, biggest hospitality company in the world. They don't own any hotels. They are a customer interface. Value. That's how we're creating value. You look at governments, state governments, city governments, and the U.S. government here in this country, and there's not interface yet. And that's a problem. That's a huge problem. Even in some places of Russia, it's weird. There's actually sometimes more interface around laws that are being developed. We're not there yet. But all of this, as you can see, all of this change has to do with innovation. Now, there's a valley here, not far away, and what's it called? Yeah, hello. It's called?
Innovation Valley.
Innovation Valley, absolutely. Pearl. Yeah! Yes! Innovation is what it takes to live in this world that we're living in right now. The government of Knoxville has to innovate. The chamber has to innovate, which you're doing. I'm so excited. And Businesses have to innovate. We have to keep changing. We can't keep doing what we've been doing and succeed. The whole way we create value has changed. I know this personally. In the 1990s, I started a publishing company, and I did everything right, and it was fantastic. We made a lot of money, and I sold it to a Fortune 500 company. So I said, well, let's do another one. I turned around, I started another company about 5 years later, did everything right, I did exactly the same things. I'm sorry, if any of my investors are in the audience, I'm still sorry about that, okay? Because I lost my wallet. It was terrible. You know what? It's because I was doing the same thing. The internet had changed the way that we were doing things. The internet had changed from an information to a concept economy, and I wasn't with it. You guys, particularly the millennials, it's so exciting because you are on top of this. You've grown up with this. It's so exciting. Okay. All this change is no surprise to people like generational experts like me. In generational studies, we kind of predict this kind of thing. And we predicted what's happening right now in terms of disruption and change about 40 years ago. So, we're like, yeah, we told you it was coming. Nobody's like, yeah, you didn't tell us. We should have told you. Okay, so what we know from generational studies, by going back and analyzing history for about 800 years, here and in Europe and in the Far East, is that the economy and history and politics run in cycles. And it's predictable. It's predictable. It's 80 to 100-year cycles. First of all, there's a huge crisis that shakes up every freaking thing. Think about the American Revolution. Big crisis, right? So what happened, let's see, 80 to 100 years later in the 1860s, we had, Civil War. Shook up everything. And then, let's see, 80 to 100 years later in the 1940s, we had World War II. 80 to 100 years later, here we are in 2016, watching everything getting shaken to the roots, both by the digital revolution and probably and in other ways too. We'll see how this all plays out because we're in the middle of it right now. In my world, we say that this period of crisis started in 2008 with the economic dive. And we've got about 5 more years of it. After that crisis, there are about 20 years of relative peace and belonging, stability. This is when the silent generation grew up. Maybe your grandparents. My mom grew up during this period. The war was over. She could build a family. She could build a business. There was some stability because problems had been solved. Then you get about 20 years with the boomers, with a period of awakening, when there's all this FOMO, all these women and big ideas and a real restlessness. Still, everything's working. The economy continues to climb. Everything, continues to go. Even though there are all these big ideas, all these headstrong people running around yelling about women's rights and civil rights, the peace movement, and all that good stuff. That's followed by 20 years of an unraveling. Where are the Xers? Raise your hands. I need to see you. I need to know you're there. Okay, Xers. This is when you grew up. This is when the working quite so the economy just wasn't you to grow. We kept doing this as you were growing up. Things just did not work as well. And so we have a period of unraveling when people become much more cynical about what's going on in the world. It's just a period. It happens every 100 years as we go through the cycle. Then we get into a period like where we are now with the crisis, when there's disruption. Things just change so quickly. Like in the digital world, it's changing business so quickly right now. And all that changes, and then we go back in. It goes round and round. Comments, questions? Yeah.
Are the wars that you mentioned a result of the crisis or cause?
They are mostly, in my world, they are mostly a result of the crisis. Things like income inequity and political polarization that can't come together, those wars end up being the outcome, and they solve the crisis. That's not a good thing. It just happens to be. Now, we don't have to have a war every time there's a crisis, okay? The Enlightenment we look at as a crisis. Everything changed. There are other big things that were changes that were not that were not wars. Right now we have some choices to make in this country about how we get through this crisis. And you've got some choices to make in Knoxville about how you embrace innovation and get through this. So, on we go. Other comments or questions? You don't have to believe this. A lot of people don't believe in generational studies, and that's okay. I'm good with that. Sometimes somebody will come up to me after I speak and they'll go, I still don't believe in generational studies, but you know, some stuff you said made sense. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I'll take that. Yes, what did you have?
I feel like the crisis period is the opportunity that where some communities and regions can really pull out ahead harder than others.
You betcha. You betcha. It's a time when you can pull out ahead really fast and more than others. And it's a time when your generation steps up. That's what we've always seen historically, is that during that crisis period, the generation like the millennial generation coming of age during the crisis steps up. Okay, I'm going to talk just a little bit about what each generation, boomers and Xers and millennials, bring to this time, to this question of innovating a great city. I was talking with Austin Church, who just a fabulous guy, so passionate about social justice. And he was naming off the people, the boomers that he worked with who are passionate about social justice, and the Xers he works with who are passionate about social justice, and the millennials. And it was wonderful because he was looking at all three generations. Let's look first at what the boomers bring to this question of innovation. And I'm going to show you some images that come from the period that boomers were coming of age. Just watch for the overall feeling or effect of these images.
People try to bust it down, talking about my generation, just because we get around. Talking about my generation, things they do look awful. Talking about my generation, if I die before I get old. Talking about my generation, my generation, baby.
Passion. It was a period when tempers ran high. Ideas were exciting. People threw their life on the line for ideas. It was a passionate period. And I submit to you that those boomers who are in this city that are making social justice, that are building a better government, that are building exciting companies in many cases, bring a passion to it that's part of the boomer gift to this whole thing. So that when you say, I'm going to make a difference in this place, but I need some funding. When you go and talk to that boomer about the funding you need, talk about it in terms of doing the right thing, the passionate thing. Talk about it as an ideal. Now they might want some facts and figures too, but be sure to put that passion in there, because we boomers, our hearts just break, and we do whatever you ask, so long as we can see your passion. Make sense? All right. Let's look next at Gen Xers. All right, Xers. Yeah! Let's look at some of the images that shape you and what you bring to this. Did you see things that failed? Ron, you'd be grumpy too if the first word you learned to read was Enron, WorldCom, the Challenger. government that started to not work as well. And CNN was there to show it all to you, right? If a scandal unfolded in anywhere, education, in the nonprofit world, in religion, if a scandal unfolded, you could watch it 24 hours a day. Yes. You were the first generation that could watch it 24 hours a day, and that gave you a much more skeptical perception, a much more critical perception. If you are on a team with Gen Xers, have you noticed they ask the hard questions? Yeah, that's great. That's what we need. But they ask the hard questions. Pragmatism. Get it done. That's what Xers will bring to this city as you move forward. Anytime we have a generation like Xers that grow up during unraveling, they feel like outliers when they're growing up, but they rise to become the pragmatic leaders that we need to make the hard decisions. So Xers, I'm glad you're here. Hang in there. Don't go away, please. Please. Whatever you do. Okay, so pragmatism. Let's say just a word more about Xers.
Oh, my.
Xers, you remember this guy?
Yes.
Yeah. What's the first thing we learned about him? He hated everything. He was an Xer. He hated everything. They had to convince him. You had to show him. The reason, that ad ran for 12 years. It's a record in the advertising business. Ran for 12 years. That's a record. And it worked because he captured the sentiment of a whole generation that had grown up during an unravel. And all the parents went, that's my baby, he doesn't like anything, and I love him so much. Now, it's not really your fault that you're skeptical and you ask the hard questions, because of course, you were the first generation that learned to work on computers. And that was when the computers were all sequestered over in the computer lab, remember? They weren't part of your life, really. They were over in the lab, like exotic creatures. And if you would go in there, you go to computer class, and if this was on the screen. So first, you name all the people in your party so you get attached to them. Your wagon turns over, people steal your stuff, you get typhoid. Cholera. Mary breaks her arm, Jill breaks her leg. Snake bite.
See you, Mary.
Everybody's dead. Here's the thing that I think really marked you Gen Xers. You were supposed to be okay with that. Did anybody here make it to Oregon? Woo! Look at you! You made it! Well, how did you do it? You sacrificed all of math class, and that's how you got there. Makes sense. Very pragmatic Gen X kind of move, right? Yeah. Okay. Anybody? There were some people in the back who made it to Oregon.
I don't need you.
No, they're not going to talk now. Okay, but anyway, all of us go, that's a joke, but it's kind of not a joke. So many things were going wrong during an unraveling. Just things that didn't work. You've seen so many things fail. The Gen Xers just tend to say, wait a minute, let's ask the hard questions. Let's make sure this is going to work. I have to say that you guys have a PR problem. Xers, PR problem, you notice? The culture's just not in love with Gen Xers. As a matter of fact, in 2014, a big study came out from the Pew Research Center that said Gen Xers are balanced, happy, family-oriented, members of the community, smart business leaders, all this great stuff about you. And so Time magazine reported that the cover looked like this. You look like serial killers. Anytime we have a generation that grows up during an unraveling, they're looked at, as outsiders and different because they're so pragmatic. I think that with that in mind, we really need to recognize the Xers. Please stand up. Stand up, Xers. Woo! Yes! Raise your right hand. Turn and look into the eyes of somebody who's not an Xer. And repeat after me. I am a gift.
I am a gift. I'm so good.
Game on, go play. Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid. And all that winning is done. Only shouting stars. Driving in your car, speed so fast, I felt like I was drunk. City nights, day out before, singing all the nights wrapped around my shoulder. And I had a feeling that I belong. I had a feeling I could be someone, be someone, be someone.
I loved her. I'm sorry, I have to change the slide. Okay, what did you see? What did you see that shaped the millennials so that they could provide innovation during this period? Crisis, yeah. Violence, guns in the classroom, yeah. Global, not just like a little dip in the economy, a global recession, right? And that global tailspin we went in after 9/11. Millennials, can you remember a time we haven't been at war in some way? Can you remember a time the ice caps weren't disappearing? Yeah, okay. Katrina, all those crises. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about you guys. First people to get organized after the tsunami in Southeast Asia. Who was it? Millennials. You were online raising money, changing things before it even finished happening. First volunteers, some of the first volunteers into Katrina. Biggest group of volunteers in after Katrina. Millennials. Some of the first people to get organized after 9/11. Millennials, hello! Growing up online so that you had access to the world and you knew what can be done. So instead of saying, my gosh, there are a lot of problems out there, you guys tend to step forward and say, well, yeah, there are a lot of problems out there, but let's fix it. Give me my little piece of it so I can fix it, okay? Just, I'm going to fix a little, this is my corner over here and I'm going to fix that. That tends to be what the millennials do. Now, we boomers, we wanted to change the world, teach the whole world to sing, stuff like that. You millennials, it's more like, no, little piece of impact. Let me make a difference. I see you nodding. Is that the way you feel? You're a millennial? You're totally a millennial. How do you know you're a millennial?
Everything that they explain or keep putting on it in a negative sense, I feel like it's a positive sense for us. So all millennials actually
Yeah. We got you here. You're pegged. I planted her before we started. But now look at the equation. Look what we've provided. Passion, long-term vision, big overall idealism. Boomers who are still working with you, boomers who are still in this city, who, if you access that piece of passion, can help make things happen. Pragmatism, those tough-minded leaders who want to get it done. And then impact. People who are just determined to have an impact. Did you know that in surveys, this is so crazy, you guys are nuts. In surveys, more than half of you millennials say that yes, you would give up a job that paid more money in order to have a more positive impact on the world. Hello? Boomers would never have said that. You guys are great. You guys are great. Millennials. Are you a millennial? Right there. Right there. Yeah. You're a millennial. What makes you a millennial? You're Gen X. We're running out of time, so I want to talk to the audience just a little bit before we're done. Because I know there's craft beer waiting out there. And Lord knows I don't want to stand between you and that. But I want to talk to you guys just a little bit, okay? What generation are you? Is this on? Hello? Oh, it's on.
I'm a millennial
Yes. How do you know you're a millennial?
because I like to have my hand on the wheel even when I'm from the ground up.
You want your hand on the wheel. You want to make a difference. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Totally cool. What are you going to do to make this city different?
I work for a renewable energy company.
How cool is that? Pearl, where are you? Yeah! Where's the renewable energy? Woo! What generation are you, sir?
Millennial.
I'm just rich with millennials. So talk to me. Why are you a millennial? How do you know you're a millennial?
Well, because of my my age range, but I would actually probably.
I didn't waste a whole hour, did did I? Okay, go ahead.
I would actually fit better with the Gen Xer.
Oh, you're like on the cusp between millennial and Xer?
Yeah.
You do know that if you're on the cusp between two, that is great. In all seriousness, studies tell us that a lot of people on the cusp between two generations can see more than one perspective. You're kind of natural leaders. You are generationally bilingual. Put it on your resume. You're more like an Xer?
Yeah.
Why are you more like an Xer?
I would say I don't see things the same way as millennials do as far as the jobs and stuff like that. I want to make an impact.
Yeah.
But it's more about what am I doing here? How am I moving up the chain as well?
Oh, moving up the chain! You sound like a boomer. Oh. Were you raised by older parents or something?
No.
You just came out this way. That's all right. What generation are you, sir?
I'm a boomer.
Oh, with me. All right, hi there.
I relate to all generations.
You relate to all us. You might be generationally intelligent.
Gen X.
Yeah, that's totally cool. And what we want are not people who say, I'm an Xer, I'm always going to be like an Xer. Or I'm a millennial, I'm always going to be this way. No. What we want are people who say, I'm a human. And I can see that what you're doing, what you're saying might be generational. That's okay, let's just talk about it. Let's fix it, let's meet halfway. So that when we look beyond stereotypes, because what I was doing today was not, I wasn't trying to show you stereotypes. I know they're in there, they're buried in there. But I was trying to show you gifts, the gifts each generation brings. And you are generationally intelligent when you can say, you and I are not the same, but I can see where you're coming from. How do we meet halfway on this? Then you become generationally intelligent as an individual, as a company, as a city. I'll tell you one quick story and then we're done. About 5 years ago, I was training for a triathlon with a team of people, and they all happened to be younger than I was. And our coach was a Gen Xer, who was great. His name was David. And one Saturday, we were riding through this hilly park in Nashville, and we were coming around and getting ready to go up a hill. And I saw a friend of mine walking. I hadn't seen her in a long time. And so I pulled off, I unclipped, went to the side. It's just worth it to ride a bike just so you can do that stance, where you're like half on, half off the bike. And I said, you guys go on, because I wanted to catch up. They went on up around the corner, and I caught up with my friend. So then, I clipped back in, and I climbed that hill, and went around the corner. There they were. There they were. And they were kind of angry with me. They were kind of angry. And as I rode up to them, my coach David said, hey, we ride as a team. Well, he's a good coach. Let me urge you, as you innovate this city to greatness, I got to come back and see what you do in a few years. As you innovate the city to greatness, remember all the generations. Don't let the Xers get left out. Don't let the boomers get left out. Ride as a team. See you. Thank you.